Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. This is Simon with AvaTrade. I'm very happy to welcome you back to our weekly webinar. And the title is Trading Prospects Mapping Out Your Week Ahead. And what we're trying to do here, as always on Sundays, trying to look through things that happened last week, trying to look into the upcoming week and try to make sense of what possible will be happening on the market. We'll speak about specific instruments, and so on. This is me, Simon Friedman. I'm a senior account manager with AvaTrade. I've been trading and involved in trading for the past 23 years. I started as a prop trader back in New York City in June of 2000 when I changed careers. And after 11 years of intense prop trading, which is probably the most exciting thing and the most stressful one, I moved into kind of a more calm environment, and also started to mentor and educate other traders. The agenda of the webinar, as usual, we'll talk about indices, stocks, commodities, and Forex. We'll talk a little bit about fundamentals. We'll discuss economic calendar and other things. Risk warning, you can find a full statement at avatrade.com. What we'll do here, of course, it's purely educational. And for occasional coughing, I'm still recovering, but it's all about appreciation. I really appreciate the fact that I have my voice back and I can freely speak, even though the occasional coughing is coming. I think it's going to take a while. So the channels, you have access to our Telegram, X or Twitter, and my favorite YouTube channel, which is being updated daily. You can subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. You can click on likes. You can share with your friends. Definitely subscribe and click on that bell so you'll be notified when new things are arriving. And as I said, we're adding things on a daily basis. And of course, if you love our webinars and you miss one or you think you'll miss one, don't stress out. You can find it on YouTube. We uploading the webinars and they're being saved on YouTube. So anytime you can go back and watch the webinar at your convenient time. Okay, so before we go to muting myself every time I feel like coughing, so I don't want to disturb you. So few things, exciting things, and it's right here. As you know, I like to post some slides here. So this is Microsoft, and this is the title from Barron's article on MarketWatch.com. So Microsoft is the most valuable company ever, and these are the things. I just give you the numbers that Microsoft ended the week at all-time highs and reached market capitalization at 3.125 trillion, the highest for any company ever. And of course, they bypassed the Apple. Apple reached the highest that was back in July of 2023, and it reached the level of 3.09 trillion, according to Dow Jones market data. And currently, closing on Friday, Apple market capitalization is below 3 trillion. It's 2.916 trillion. Okay, so Microsoft, and I mean, it makes sense through all this technology era from 2000 with all the dot-coms and everything else and computers. As you know, Microsoft's products are all over the world, and it's not just the software, it's a lot of things. And another thing that comes to mind, Microsoft is deeply involved in artificial intelligence. And as you could see, that stocks that are involved in artificial intelligence are the ones that leading and making all-time highs. That includes NVIDIA, which closed the week at 721.85 at all-time highs. And on the other hand, Intel, which according to analysts are kind of behind AI a little bit, has been selling. We'll talk about Intel. I have a few details on that when we get to the stocks. So here's your Microsoft leader. Great job. Okay. So speaking of Intel, is right here. You know. Also, it's from MarketWatch.com. It says Pat just took a screenshot, so I'm going to read it. Pat Gelsinger just bought. He's the CEO, I believe. Uh, bought more stocks in two companies in which he holds leadership posts. Shares of Intel, which serves as CEO, and Mobileye, which serves as the chair, have fallen in 2024. And they give you the numbers here. Intel stock has dropped about 14% in 2024 when the market makes new highs. So it just tells you something. Hammered by disappointing guidance in January that overshadowed a strong fourth quarter report. Shares of Mobileye, a maker of chips to power uh, autonomous driving that was spun off from Intel in late 2022, has lost a third of the value year to date. Mobileye stock's fate was sealed after the company provided revenue outlook in the first week of New Year that missed estimates. So again, not such good things for Intel. But when you have CEO buying the stock, it really shows you that the leadership is believing the kind. Again, Intel is a serious company, and I think one of the, of course, the guidance are not so great. And another thing that investors like to see AI as we have kind of a AI era now. It reminds me a little bit of a 2000 excitement of .com, even though some analysts say we shouldn't compare it and we're not going for the bust. But we'll see, I guess, what the future brings. Of course, AI, everybody speaks about AI. So artificial intelligence is hot these days. All right. So another thing I just I wanted to show it to you, the 10-year yields. After catching the support here in the beginning of February, we've been really moving higher. First of all, we are above the 4, which kind of a 4% level. And we are trying to break through the highs. I think the high here was we had 2 attempts at 4.19%. So why am I showing this? Gold is very sensitive to it, and dollar is very sensitive to it. So it's been kind of a correlation. When the yields are going higher, the dollar is gaining strength and gold is losing strength. Also, the markets are reacting. The equity markets, also the high yields, it's been showing a little bit of weakness in the market, but not in this case. We've been going higher on yields, and the market's been making all-time highs. So just to pay attention to this, it's a little bit of a diversion here. Okay, let's go into the MT4, and we'll start analyzing the markets technically. So as we said, the indices, we'll start with indices, and we had all-time highs on S&Ps, on the index itself, on the cash index. And here what we see the CFDs for the futures. So take a look, we are here at 5,041 and 3/4, closing at the highs, at all-time highs. NASDAQ, here it's also above 18,000, but according to Dow Jones data, we are still a little bit short of the all-time highs of NASDAQ. And Dow Jones actually sold on Friday. I tried to see what the only sell-off I saw in an Expedia stock after reporting not such great things. Expedia really went down. I guess this week we'll hear more things. Also, just for our information, we have more than 60 S&P 500 companies reporting this upcoming week. So we'll definitely see new things, new projections, new earnings, new kind of feelings of where the companies are and so on. Okay, so these are the US indices. Again, there's no brainer. We're all-time high, so the saying "the sky's the limit" could be applied here. Or idea of we are overextended also could be applying here, which some analysts are thinking this way. Again, there's always two camps, and that's the beauty of the market. One group thinks we're going higher, and it's so much excitement, and it's just full force moving to the skies. The other group is always cautious. Either they're not buying or they're even trying to sell short, hoping that this is the top. And the beauty of it that nobody really knows when the real top is, as we never knew. There was a lot of excitement in the year 2000 when the dot-com burst. We had a lot of excitement with the mortgage securities that created the global crisis. 2007, 2008. It's funny. I just recently rewatched the movie Big Short. It's very awakening, And always I remember the quote from Warren Buffett when he says, "I'm cautious when everybody's greedy, and I'm greedy when everybody's cautious." So that's a good saying. And again, just to remind us, I think a week ago, a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned that Warren Buffett is sitting on $150 billion in cash. So I guess he's looking for something or waiting for something. Now, speaking of a burst, China, we had a nice move here as the government of China got involved and they start purchasing some securities through the ETFs and so on. We did have an attempt to break through this magic level, 11,500, and the very same day we retraced and closed below, and then we had actions below it. So as of now, we're still seeing this 11,500 approximate level being a strong resistance. And there's a lot of information out there on issues that the tourism is slowing down, that the retail investors are not buying anything, they can't afford more losses. Also, the Chinese real estate participants or companies or huge players that they start really putting for sale properties, not just in China, but across the globe, some in US, some in Canada. There are things popping up. So it's just something to be really concerned about, I believe. Some say that China will cause another issue similar to 2008. Again, yes or no, we'll find out, but it makes sense because there's a lot of money involved in real estate, and we could see some issues popping up. So that's on China. Japan had a nice pop to the upside as yen showed a little bit of a weakness. We'll talk about yen when we get to Forex segment. Okay, so these are the indices. And let's just take a quick look at the German DAX. The German DAX is trading around 17,000. It looks like we did make or tried to make all-time high this week, but we retraced. So Wednesday was a sell-off after touching the all-time high. So it just shows you that the sellers are pushing it down every time we try to get there. So we'll definitely be watching. There are also some articles, some information of economy slowing down in Germany. This is no news. We've been hearing about it, and let's see how this week plays for Germany. But like we said, most of the indices are testing the all-time highs or making all-time highs. Besides the UK, the UK FTSE is not really showing that strength. It's not keeping company to the leaders. We did have a double top here, 76.68 area, and the last 3 days of the week we've been selling, and we stopped on a daily chart right on a 200-day moving average here. So something is causing weakness there. You know what? I just realized that I forgot that we need to go through economic calendar. So let's just go back to it really quick. What triggered that idea is looking at the UK. So economic calendar, sorry about that. I usually mention it before we go into technicals. So this is the economic calendar, especially for new people. It is important to know the things that are happening. Again, whether you use it in your trading or not, it's up to you. But knowing the certain things are happening, it's very important. For instance, this week on Tuesday, we have CPI reports, which is really, really closely watched by Feds, and it's a big aspect of them using it as their decision making in the interest rate. So when the numbers coming, the volatility increases. We have equities moving, we have dollar moving, we have gold moving, other assets. So again, knowing that at this time, GMT time on Tuesday, this will happen, this really will help you to avoid unnecessary stress and chaos. Whether you in the trade, you want to get out, you want to stay away, you want to enter. Some people like volatility. It depends on your style of trading and your strategies, but knowing that things are happening is very important. Also, as you know, here I take the high impact events only. There are much more. You can filter through them. You can find economic calendar on our web trader or the AvaGo app or any third-party provider. It's the same source. It's centralized numbers. They're being supplied and announced ahead of time. And these are the things. So let's go through it really, really quick. And this is why I remembered it. So because Bank of England, Bailey speaking on Monday, I remember. So when I spoke about UK FTSE, it just triggered my memory. So I apologize for missing. So Monday, Governor Bailey speaking. Definitely will be watching pound and FTSE. Tuesday, a lot of data. We have inflation expectation on New Zealand dollar. By the way, when we get there, New Zealand dollar has been super strong. I don't know if I should say super strong, but stronger than other currencies. We'll take a look soon. So I guess this report support that idea or reverse it. We have employment data from UK. We have CPI, Consumer Price Index from Switzerland. And this is the key data for the week, CPI numbers from US, that's on Tuesday. Wednesday, another round of CPI data from UK, GDP numbers from European Union, and GDP numbers from Japan. Definitely will be watching that Nikkei index and also Japanese yen, definitely. Thursday, we have employment data from Australia. We have GDP numbers from UK. We have President Lagarde of European Central Bank speaking on Thursday as well. So we'll be watching definitely Euro and DAX. We have retail sales from US, also series data. I will be watching reaction in the market. And Friday, we have retail sales from UK. We have PPI numbers, also important, and Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index, also very important. So these are the things that are coming out by economic calendar. Again, this is just high impact, the most important ones. There's much more. You can look through them and see what works for you, what applies to you. Okay, so we're gonna move back to the MT4. And we concluded with indices, and we're going to move to stocks. So we'll start with two stocks that reported this past week. Two out of many, of course. We had Uber. I reported pretty good news, but the stock pre-market was trading lower, so it gapped down, but then recovered the same day and made all-time highs, I believe. So on Uber, I did a little bit of research. So they have a lot of positive things going, and the major analysts and banks they have following price targets on Uber stocks. So JP Morgan has a target of $76. we have to see what the market's doing in general. As I like to say that on the running market, even the weak stocks are moving higher, and on the sell-off and crashing markets, even the best stocks are selling, and that's normal. So this is Uber. Also Disney, after a lot of issues, it has upside surprise. They had good earnings. The theme parks did great. Other things were doing good. So the stock gapped up and continued. And then Friday, it was a gap down, and we moved lower. So there's a gap. Now, what's next for Disney? As you know, it's been a rough year or a few years for Disney with a lot of things. Their streaming business was limping and kind of causing losses for them. And then the CEO came back, other things, so up and downs. With this gap, sometimes, again, it depends what general market will be doing, but sometimes when there's no continuation to the upside, the shares acting the following. So we might see a move to the downside and closing the gap, or we might see breaking through the highs and continuing higher. So I think this range on Thursday of the day of the earnings should be our indication. If we break below this level of 106.73, we might see attempt to close the gap, or at least get closer to it. And if we break the high of that day, which was 112.67, we might see continuation. On the weekly chart, both scenarios are acceptable here. If we do move higher, we might see the retest of this exactly a year ago, February 2023, when we hit 117.95, almost 118. So we'll be watching Disney. Let's take a look through the big names. Like we said, Microsoft all-time highs, reaching about 3 trillion, the highest market cap company as of today. Google is trying to recover. If you remember, I just said about the gaps. So the gaps have a tendency to be closed, like here, like here. So we have another gap that was after the earnings, and as you could see, slowly we're trying to close that gap. So we might continue and actually close that gap and see what's happening afterwards. Apple, kind of rejecting the 50-day moving average here. You can see all over the place pictures and articles about this new device that they're selling for $3,500. You see people walking in the streets with that. So let's see how that thing affects stock. As of now, if you take simple analysis here, we confirming here lower highs. This was the high of December, 199.5. Then another one end of January, when we made a lower high. We made actually a lower low here, comparing, and we about to confirm maybe another lower high. So we might see sliding in Apple, or maybe we hear a lot of excitement about this virtual reality device and the stock will shoot up. It's just speculations. We'll see what happens. Amazon making all-time high since the last earnings. As you could see here, there was a gap, but not trying to close it. The opposite, we're making the highs. So again, we are on the way to possibly confirm the all-time highs that we had on November 2021. So it's not an all-time high currently, it's just current high. Meta, as you could see, this previous week was very, very strong, and this past week was pretty much flat. Let's see. We opened the week on 469.40, and we closed 470.38, less than a 98 cents advance for the week. So it just shows something when the market making highs. Meta after this gap. If you remember, the earnings were great, mostly coming from advertisement. And it's true, you know, I was browsing through my Facebook page, trying to see, you know, once in a while I just waste my time doing it. And you could see that they're really targeting you. You just type something, you search something, and then instead of seeing your friend's post, you see tons of advertisement on the topic that you just type. So they're really, really catching you there, and they're really focusing on that advertisement. So I really don't know what's going to happen, because people don't like that. And actually, I know a lot of young people moved away from Facebook to Instagram and other things, which is probably becoming the same as being owned by the same guys. So anyway, they are focusing on advertisement, and the numbers were great, and the stock made all-time highs, and it looks strong. And this past week, as I said, we had a flat week. So I guess our indication should be this initial move, the high of 485.72 and the low of 452.88. That's a large range for one day. I mean, if it's much more if you take the gap into consideration. So same thing, if we do break below here, we might actually try to close the gap at some point. We'll see what happens there. Now, Intel, as I mentioned to you, the CEO is buying the stock. It looks good. Friday, we had to move up. This was the gap on the last earnings and projections. So we might see continuation if that happens. Netflix, also Netflix is kind of stuck at this level since the last move to the upside. As you could see here, we're not at the all-time highs, but we are at the recent highs. And it looks like this 573 area is being a strong resistance here, right? We did have a move at the end of January to 579.34. And then we had another attempt. We traded below that 573 level, and then another attempt just happened the 5th of February, and we are below. So we'll be watching Netflix, see what's next for the stock. Tesla is moving higher, and here also next checkpoint is actually close in about $3. The high here was 196.16 back on January 30th. If we all continue moving higher, we'll be testing that, and if we break through it, we might see trying to close the gap. Of course, before that, there's a psychological level of 200. See how the price actually playing around that level. Teva, I want to bring Teva to your attention. It really worked, the scenario that we spoke about. If you remember, we said about breaking the 11. First of all, just to remind us, I started talking about Teva when we saw these moves between $7 and $11. Every time it came close to 7, we spoke about potential buying and taking it to 11. And then later on, we spoke about a big picture of this channel being in place for a very long time, since 2019. And we said when we start breaking $11, we might see a continuation here. So it looks strong. We had 3 consecutive months, and only the past few days there was a little bit of correction here. So we'll definitely be watching between 12 and 13. If we break 13, we might be out of the woods and continue high here to next levels. If you can see this big drop here, it's a good indication of possible price levels here. This was 2017, and the low was 15.29. So we could speculate here that if we do break this $12, $13 range, we might see a continuation and next checkpoint around $15 here. As you could see, we stopped here, we went higher, went below, we confirmed the resistance, and then we sold. So we are kind of on the way there. Again, it's a great company. They do generic medicine for a lot of brand names. And just to give us an idea, that 2015, the stock was at $67. So that's 500% potential from here. Again, potential doesn't mean it will happen. So let's see. Let's continue watching Teva at this point. Walmart, as you remember, I mentioned Walmart time highs. So I have some interesting facts for you. First of all, Walmart will be reporting not this coming week, but the following week on the 20th. We'll be reporting earnings. And then I think they announced this past Tuesday that on the 26th, Walmart will be executing the stock split 3-for-1. So for each share of Walmart stock, you'll have 3 shares if you are the stockholder or shareholder. Now, I researched for interesting statistics, and it's very interesting just to share with you how the old timers, the old investors are actually making money in this world. So just to give you an idea, first of all, Walmart is the biggest retailer in the world, I think. And I think I watched a documentary on Netflix or something about the history of Walmart. It's very interesting. Just to give you an idea, 2008, when everything crashed, Walmart actually started doing amazing numbers. So just to give you an idea, Walmart IPO, I found this report, don't remember where, but Walmart IPO came out on October 1st, 1970, and the price was $16.50. So if you ask yourself a question, if you invested $1,000 into IPO of Walmart on October 1st, 1970, if you were around that time, or just hypothetically. So at that time, for the $1,000 at that price, you could have purchased 60.61 shares of Walmart. So over the years, there were a lot of splits. So Walmart was splitting 11 times 2-for-1 stock split. So that means if you had 60.61 shares, as of today, you would have 124,129.28 shares. And if you multiply it by the current price of Walmart, around $169, you would have more than $20 million. That's amazing. So 1970, that's 54 years from now. That's a big, big time frame. In any event, $1,000 back then also was a lot of money. But today you would have had over $20 million. So just an idea. Again, it's not easy to be an investor. You also need to have money, lots of cash and so on. But for some people, it works. So I just figured I'd just get you excited by these numbers. So again, $1,000 invested 1970 would be today more than $20 million in your pocket. All right. So these are the stocks. We spoke a little bit more than usual about stocks. So let's move to commodities. And if you remember, I showed you that the 10-year yields are at 4.17%, about 4. So we'll start with gold, and gold should be showing weakness, and that's what's been happening on Friday. But we're still, something's holding it. It's not really rushing to retest 2000 or 2008, which was a serious level here. So we are holding these current levels here, and we're trading between 50 and 100 moving average on gold. So we'll continue watching those yields. We do have CPI, PPI numbers this week, retail sales, and consumer confidence. So a lot of data to digest and for the market to react to this week. So definitely, as you could see, gold is waiting for something here. Now, platinum and palladium actually are selling hard. That's your palladium here. That's your platinum here. By the way, palladium, it just broke to this 950 and continues lower. So this is kind of a new territory for the price. And it's worth noticing that 2018, the low was 815 and a quarter. So we're about $45 away from that. So let's mark it here for this upcoming week. We set what was the level here? Low of 815 and a quarter. Let's mark that. 815 and a quarter. Let's put it in green. Let's put it thick line. Okay, so we definitely will be watching that level as we are kind of approaching it. So that's palladium. Again, just to remind us fundamentals with all the electric cars coming in and conventional cars kind of selling less, I guess. I'm not sure if I'm right in that thing, but the mood is to really to switch with the all global warming and everything else and all this international pressure. So everybody's pushing for electric cars and other things, and palladium is being used in the exhaust systems of the car. So it looks like all this move is a lot of it to do with the fear of a lack of demand, or maybe it's already a lack of demand. So that's palladium, definitely worth watching. Now, silver, on the other hand, just caught my attention when things are selling on in the metal world. Silver just popped up on Thursday and Friday, continues. So we'll be watching silver. Is it a temporary correction before we're moving higher? Lower, sorry, or we're really trying to establish a support and continue as you could see here, we had the resistance here after making a lower low. And then if we are moving higher and breaking this resistance here, we might be switching the trend to the upside. So definitely we'll be watching that. Copper, excuse me, copper has been selling, I guess the fear of China. Um, and also it looks like the trend is finally changing it to the downside. We had a level here from which we made a high, which was lower high, and we just made a lower low here. So it could be that we switching the trend, and we definitely should be watching what China is doing next, and for that matter, what the global economy is doing next as well. Nevertheless, the last 3 days was an intense sell-off on copper. Crude oil had a nice bounce here, and then we came to this level of resistance, 76.5. Why 76.5? I ask myself the question as well. And from here, we really sold back in 2018 on the monthly chart, a lot of actions around this level. So around again, all the levels are approximate. There's no things in stone. So about 76.5. So you could see here, we are facing resistance. We had a nice recovery pretty much all week. We're going higher in oil. Again, what could be a cause? Tension in Middle East is growing with parties involved. Also, situation is not getting any better. So the shipping of oil is experiencing probably some difficulties. Let's see how it plays from here. So we'll definitely be watching oil. Natural gas is in a big trouble. We just confirmed the lower low from the level of April 2023, about 10 months ago. So a lot of actions, a lot of struggle to move higher. We've been discussing natural gas almost every session, and we just broke down through this level. So again, let's see what happens. One thing comes to mind is to watch this tail. The low here was 179, 1.794. We about 7 cents away from that level. Let's see what happens. But this is heavy sell. We had a huge selling, a small correction, and a continuation to the downside. And fundamentally, two things. It's a milder weather, something to do with El Nino, and also production is back. Production in the U.S. is near the record levels, according to Wall Street Journal. I just did a little bit of a research. So both, we have lack of demand because of the weather, and then we have a huge supply because of the record production. So as of now, it looks like it's been selling here, and unless we see some brave buyers coming in, we might be continuing sliding lower. And the opposite side, we have cocoa, which is just skyrocketing, and it's all about weather conditions in Ivory Coast and other places that produce cocoa. It's it's just vertical. Take a look. Now, this is the weekly. Take a look at this volume, double volume from the previous week. So it shows continuation on daily chart as well. Now, sometimes the peak in volume could be indicating that we might reach the peak in price. Again, it's just speculation. So let's see how this week plays out. Let's see hourly chart. It trades short sessions. So here on the 9th, we had a nice move to the upside. We reached 6,022 on this CFD futures, and then the next 2 hours we had a sell-off. Then we recovered halfway through. So we should be watching Friday's high as possible peak. Let's change this back to we should be watching as a possible peak. And let's see, I mean, at some point, the super steep moves to the upside and ending up with nice corrections. And maybe we will see one, but it's very tricky. Here, if you remember, I mentioned that it might be the top was a lot of accumulation here, but take a look, we just made a double move from this one without any corrections at all. We had gaps moving higher, and this peak in volume, let's just see monthly. This peak in volume, take a look, if you take average weekly volume, this was the highest so far, and this past week we almost doubled it. So yes, it could be potentially that we are reaching the top and might be ready for some correction. So again, a few ways to play around it. Of course, you can stay away from it. Some investors or buyers would be looking for correction and then entering for continuation. And dynamic day traders or swing traders could be watching for possible shorting action here and closing with the profit at the lower levels. So that's as far as commodities. Let's move to Forex. And again, just to remind us, the yields are at 415 or 417, sorry, about 4%. So dollar should be showing us some strength. We did have a nice move to, this was on the 5th, to 104, almost 104 and a half. And then we dive below this 104.15 level, which been proven to be, as of now, resistance. Between 103 and 104 again, we're sitting right on 100 moving average here. And so far, this level is a resistance. So if we remaining below 104.15 here for a long time, again, data is coming. So similar to gold, as gold is sitting here really waiting, like a runner is waiting for that trigger of the gun to run. We have the same thing on dollar index. As you could see, we're pretty much sitting on the same level. So definitely CPI is the most important. Then we have PPI, and then we retail sales, and then we have the consumer confidence. So definitely this week, we'll pick a direction on dollar as well. And if you take a look at the major currencies, we're back above 126. If you remember, we mentioned this nice channel of between 126, 128. After a brief sell-off here, hitting 100 moving average here, we're back above that and building support. Also, not really running higher, waiting for that data this week. If you remember, we said that that Euro USD will be trying to retest 108, and it almost hit there, 107.94. USD CAD sold on a little bit of weakness of the dollar and the strength of oil. Now, why oil? For new people, Canadian dollar is very sensitive, and sometimes it has a strong correlation with crude oil. So when the oil price goes higher, Canadian dollar value goes higher with it. So we had a little bit of a strength of Canadian dollar there. Australian dollar also trying to get back into this channel above 165, sorry, 0.65. We closed about that level again after being below. So let's see how we act from here. If you remember, I mentioned in the beginning, the New Zealand dollar, it looks very strong. So you could see here, New Zealand dollar has been the whole week going higher. I didn't find any specifics there. Maybe it's to do with China as they importing or exporting a lot of things to China, but then so does Australian dollar, but didn't show the same strength. So let's see if we find any reasons for it. In any event, a nice recovery with bounce of 200 moving average. Here we're above 200 and 100, maybe on the way to retest the 50 moving average here. Against the Swiss franc, dollar is remaining strong. We just made higher low and the higher high. If we continue higher, this 0.88 level might be retested, or the 200 moving average here. Just want to show you the yen. Yen showed more weakness this past week. On Thursday, we had a nice move of dollar against the yen, and we are approaching a strong resistance around here, around 149.60. This is the level. We had some actions here on daily chart and then the sell-off. So that's a serious level. As you could see, we're getting close to it. And if you take, excuse me, and if you take a look at all other pairs with Japanese yen, it looks like they're also waiting for something. Swiss franc is this magic 170.5. It's been holding there, up and downs, a lot of actions. We're trying to break out, but we come back to that level again and again. We just had this week a sell-off on Swiss yen, and then Thursday recovery above that level, and we're sitting right on that level. Aussie JPY, nice recovery, but we're still ahead of a major test of a resistance. CAD JPY had a nice bounce to the upside. Like I said, the CAD had a nice boost by the price of crude oil, but also we are facing this resistance here around 111. As you could see, we had a nice pop here, but came right back. You can see it on hourly chart. We had a nice move. We hit on Friday the high of 111.31, and then the next 3 hours was sold. A little bit of attempt to move higher, it came back. So this current level close to 111 is definitely worth watching. Euro JPY also on the way to retest this recent high. Pound JPY also right at the highs here, the serious level of resistance. We had a sell-off from here. We had a lot of attempts on breaking through, and we're failing again. So it just shows, even though yen is showing a little bit of weakness in the past few days, but it's still remaining in these levels, and it doesn't go lower. The only thing, as I said, the New Zealand dollar has been strong. Only New Zealand dollar actually broke through these recent highs from December of last year. We closed higher. So again, for some reason, New Zealand dollar shows a lot of strength. And back to yen, we are in the almost middle of February, and as I mentioned, according to the governor and the Central Bank of Japan, they are waiting for some issues to be solved with unions and the pay raise and everything else. So somewhere in April, as they said last time at the meeting, they're planning on take actions into increasing the rates. Just to remind us that it's the only major central bank that still at the negative interest rate, minus 0.1%. So that's as far as yen. Now, two more things. We have a lot of actions here in ZAR. If you remember, we hit the high here back in May. I shared with you back then, that was exactly when I was in South Africa for the first time in my life. I was in Cape Town area and I was watching the actions on the rand. So we are having a lot of actions here. It depends what the Feds are doing, what's the mood on the market, what the dollar is doing, what inflation is. We might see another attempt to break through the highs, or the opposite. We might come back and retest the previous lows. So that's as far as Forex, and a few words about Bitcoin. If you remember, excuse me, if you remember, I mentioned to you the idea of buy the rumors, sell the news, and that's exactly what happened. All this excitement happened in kind of anticipation of those ETFs coming in. The moment they came in, we saw a sell-off, and that's normal. I share with you that kind of a IPO syndrome when the pump and dump happening with all the underwriters and participants. They priced the instrument for the IPO, which new ETF is pretty much the same idea. So the price is high, they pump, they start selling, then the instrument goes lower till it settles at the price that the real buyers are coming in, and then it will continue higher to retest that initial pop. And if they feel that the value should be higher, we'll see continuation. And that's exactly what happened. Textbook scenario. We had a retest around 40,000. We had accumulation here. We broke through the 43, 44,000 here, and we're continuing higher, straight higher. And then we're probably on the way. We're currently trading at 48,159. We could be on the way to retest at 49, and of course, 50,000 would be a key level. Now, here I just marked this level here that we were at 2022, March 27. We were at the high of 48,159. We currently trading right in that price range. So I wouldn't be surprised if today's Sunday, if tomorrow the full scale trading is coming in, we might see a pop up to the upside, as a lot of people are excited. If you remember, I mentioned to you last week, I'm not sure if I mentioned this webinar, but Kathy Woods, whatever the right last name is, she's the CEO of the ARK Fund. She's very excited about, she's heavily invested, the fund is heavily invested in Bitcoin, and she has this huge predictions for the price move to the upside. So this is Bitcoin. Let's see what happens, how things work out. Okay, so again, please use our channels, Telegram, X, or Twitter, YouTube channel, my favorite. Leave your comments, definitely. If you're watching on YouTube, please leave your comments. Your feedback is very important to me and to us. Share with your friends. Click on the likes that more people can watch it. Again, a few things important this week. We have important data coming in. First of all, we have CPI, PPI numbers, retail sales, and consumer confidence. Other things, we have governors of banks speaking. It's going to be a full eventful week. We are in the middle of February. We have more than 60 S&P 500 companies reporting. Markets are making all-time highs. Some say we're overbought. Some say there's a higher move. You know, the key statement everybody's talking about, the 5K on S&P 500. So we're above 5,000 mark on S&P 500. Some say it's just opening to new territory. Some say it's time to sell, it's overbought. I guess one of them will be right. In any event, I want to wish everyone a great weekend. We still have a little bit left of it. Get some energy, get some rest, get some positive charge, and we should be seeing you next Sunday. All the best. Take care.